Please don't take my children!
How have you been feeling? Have you been sleeping any better?
Rough. Then again, I never slept well before this condition.
Condition? It's called pregnancy. It's okay to say it out loud. Something's happened.
Can you just please drive?
Did you see something?
Come inside!
What's going on?
People describe seeing an entity that takes on the form of your worst fears.
Oh my God.
What are you looking at? What did you see? What is wrong with you? Please stop it!
We can't stay here.
Every contact we have had with the outside has brought us death.
Your kids, they deserve hope.
Every single decision I have made has been for them.
They're gone.
Listen to me. We are going on the trip now. It's going to be rough.
Hold on!
If you hear something in the woods, you tell me. If you hear something in the water, you tell me. But under no circumstance are you allowed to take off your blindfold.
Did you hear that? The creatures.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another female episode on our podcast of Everything Horror. I am your hostess tonight, Tessa Baker, and I am joined by some of my fellow ladies who enjoy horror. Miss Allie.
Hello.
And Miss Stacy Cox.
Hi.
And, they're from DK Mag. And then we got Miss Sheila C. Pure Gamer.
Hello.
Who is also a part of Everything Horror Podcast. And tonight's discussion, ladies, what are we going to talk about?
Bird Box.
Bird Box.
You got it. So, just to give a brief synopsis of the film Bird Box, when a mysterious force decimates the population, only one thing is certain. If you see it, you die. The survivors must now avoid coming face to face with an entity that takes the form of their worst fears. Searching for hope and a new beginning, a woman and her children embark on a dangerous journey through the woods and down the river to find the one place that may offer sanctuary. To make it, they will have to cover their eyes from the evil that chases them and complete the trip blindfolded. This film was released November 12th of 2018. So, ladies, what did you guys think about this at first glance when you saw the trailer for it?
When I first saw the trailer, first I was like, wow, Sandra Bullock in a Netflix original, that's awesome. And then when I saw the trailer, I was like, all right, this seems interesting. Right off the bat, I kind of got that, you don't know what it is, the happening kind of vibe. And I just figured, and it, with Sandra Bullock, her being such a tremendous actress, I was like, all right, this whatever's going to happen in this movie there's going to be a lot of emotion, and it's going to be just a good conversation piece.
Yeah, definitely. How about you, Sheila? What did you think? Did you see the trailer for it before you watched it?
I did see a few trailers, but the thing that caught my eye the most was Sandra Bullock, because she has such an amazing background with like horror themes or movies in general, and her just being in this movie got my attention to watch it. Um, Besides Sandra Bullock, the whole blindfold thing was getting me interested. Like, I didn't really know what the blindfolds were about, but just the concept and trailer between the trailer and what I saw with her acting got me to watch it.
Stacy, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, and actually, I did not watch the trailer. After reading all the hype, I really just went into the film blindly. Um, and I mean, I'm glad I did. I was, I kind of felt like neutral about the, the creatures, the unseen creatures. But overall, I enjoyed the movie.
What did you guys think of the storyline and the concept for this film? The fact that it was about people trying to survive without being able to see. And like Allie mentioned a little bit ago, it had like the Happening vibe to it, which Allie and I will get to. But like the fact that you couldn't look at something or otherwise you would die. Like, what were your guys' thoughts on the concept for the film?
So what I immediately for me when I saw, okay, survival is not being able to see, I kind of actually was like, what would that be like? Like, it's you have to use all of your senses, with this. And, it's something where it's going to be a movie where after you're done watching it, you're going to think, wow, like, you can't really take advantage of what you have. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I actually watched this movie literally an hour ago. And so I was just like, wow, like, I don't know what I would do in that situation if I had to, be blindfolded and do what she did. Like, I'm sure when you're in survival mode, you have to go. And if there's something that is taken away, you figure out a way to adapt. But to me, it was intense.
What I was gonna say was the thought of not being able to see your eyes and use your mental capacity to use your ears the most out of even feel or touch, because you have to use your ears to see your surrounding areas if something's close by you. So it's just a matter of finding that all out without using your eyes is a crazy concept, but it also, will I ever be able to do that realistically? So the whole thing that Sandra Bullock went down a river blindfolded with two children in there, not taking off the blindfold, but had to find them underwater to save their lives, was just like, wow. How many people could do that?
Yeah, agreed. I do have to agree with you, Sheila, that you pretty much have, like, with your sense of sight taken away, you pretty much have to rely on the rest of your senses in this situation to get by, as if they're almost have to be heightened for you to be able to survive this sort of situation.
The concept, overall, the concept I enjoyed. I wasn't that big of a fan, though, of not being able to see what was causing all the chaos. And I know there's that whole, like, use your imagination, and that's supposed to be the point of the film. But I was a little disappointed on, seeing their reactions and seeing them turn crazy, but not being able to see why.
Yeah, that kind of plays into my second question. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on the unseen force causing the mass suicide in this film? Like, the fact that you don't see what's killing these people. But essentially, I guess part of it is the reason why we don't see what's killing them is because I'm guessing it's their worst, like their own personal worst fear. And I don't know, maybe that's way too much to like put out as a visual. I mean, I don't know. Allie, what do you think?
So, so I'm just thinking right now, the scene where Gary, who is one of the, psych patients, when he starts pointing out the drawings, I was like completely freaked out. I was like, oh my God. Like if this is what he's seeing, and he's not affected by it, like it's very dark. Like I think there were two parts in this movie that like grasped me emotionally. The first one was that scene there where he, when he first goes into the house, he describes how, the patients from the psych ward, escaped and made them all open their eyes, but he didn't. And how they acted like they didn't need to be blindfolded. And then when he pulls out these drawings, it clicks like, okay, he's obviously someone who escaped the psych ward. But when he pulls out these drawings and you see them, they're so dark. And that was a moment of fear for me because we were already watching up until that point people who are dying. And they're being told like, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. Like, isn't it so beautiful? But then you see these drawings and these drawings are like, they're very scary. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're fear. So what could really be beautiful about them? Or is it that, these creatures, and I don't want to go too off topic, but it's kind of like, okay, are these creatures affecting these people differently? Like, are they really seeing something beautiful, but then those who have a different state of mind really seeing them for what they are and not being tricked by it? And that's why, for example, the patients like Gary, he's not affected by it. But I personally, I liked the imagination, and I liked that I had that question internally after the movie was over.
The unseen force, I thought, for me personally, it was an aliens, like mind control aliens. I didn't really see it as a disease. I thought it could be an infestation, like some type of unknown bacteria coming around, spreading throughout these people. But then you see these pictures of these drawings, and he's making everybody open their eyes. As soon as they open their eyes, they're already clicked into their brain as to kill themselves. So, like, I don't know if there was an alien against human war, and the aliens were just overtaking their body completely. So, like, there's like a lot of if and ends about it. But I just wish they would explain what really caused it. If it was like one person getting sick, like a better story behind how this all became affecting the whole entire world.
Now, Allie, since
Yes.
you and I are the only ones that have seen the movie The Happening, you and I will discuss this. So, between Bird Box and The Happening, does Bird Box give you The Happening kind of vibe?
In a way, yes, it does. For example, in The Happening, we were, it was people who, there was this like, this unseen force. Of course, at the end of the movie, we know exactly what it is. But there's this unseen force. It's sort of, it starts in Europe, makes its way, like Europe, Russia, makes its way to the United States. And then from there, it's just causing people to commit suicide, like to kill themselves. and then it's just like you're constantly running, you're on the move, and you have to figure out a way to survive. In a way, for example, here it was a sense of like touch, really, and a sense of smell. Or I'm sorry, in The Happening, it was like a sense of feel and smell. You couldn't smell what was going on. You couldn't really feel it. But then the difference in Bird Box is, you couldn't see it. So there definitely are those similarities, but mainly with the suicide, and then this like breeze, this mysterious breeze that kind of goes through and sort of gets it. That's how it acquires its victims. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there are similarities between the Happening film and Bird Box. Like Allie was saying, there was an unseen force in both films, which we did see at the end of The Happening what the cause was. But like they also both like came across as like a breeze. Like it would like manipulate like grass or trees, leaves and stuff like that. And that's like pretty much what you would see, like a manifestation of it. And people would die by encountering it, or whereas in Bird Box you would have to see it to die, which as in The Happening you would just have to be in its general vicinity and it just like brush past you, and then that's it, you're dead. I thought that was kind of interesting because I actually, when I was watching Bird Box, I was actually thinking about that, the difference between The Happening and Bird Box, and I was seeing like the similarities, and I was like, huh, how interesting.
Exactly. Like at the beginning of Bird Box, it all happened so fast. And the same thing too with The Happening. Like it was like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? You have to establish the problem within the first beat, so it would be literally within the first 15 minutes. But it was just so, I think Bird Box was just so intense, so fast, because you're in a much more intimate setting when it's, Sandra Bullock's character, and her sister, Malorie and her sister Jessica, and you see, they don't know exactly what's causing this to happen, but they just know that it's like, you see Jessica go through the entire process, and that just hit so hard. Like it hit you so hard, and you're like, oh my God, like you don't know what to, you have to like, you got to catch your breath at it for a second there.
Yeah, I definitely agreed. It definitely went through and it made its way to where Malorie and Jess were rather quickly. It was like they were hearing about it on the news, and then all of a sudden it's there, and it's like, whoa, didn't waste any time on that.
No, that escalated super quickly. And yeah, and then it actually, when they were when Jessica went to go pick up Malorie from Malorie's apartment that they were watching the news, it said, like West, like Eastern Europe, Russia. And then like it actually had where it was in Alaska, and now their location was in Sacramento. So it traveled really fast.
Yeah, it didn't waste any time getting there.
No, not at all.
Now, ladies, could you imagine if something like this actually happened in our real lives? How would we adapt to this situation, do you think? Like, how would you guys adapt to this kind of situation if it ever happened?
As a gamer and playing a lot of zombie games and things like that, you definitely have, I believe, a better fight against it. Like mentally, I think there's certain people that just adapt to the news and believe anything, and it's the end of the world type thing, and they start panicking. And those people, those people get mind control at a quicker pace. But for like someone like Sandra Bullock, like she had no mental connection to the world whatsoever. And I feel like as a gamer, we have particularly like the same type of thoughts. as that. Like, we really are limited to the amount of thoughts we put into what's actually going around because we're all in our own little world.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's how you would adapt to the situation.
Yes.
How about you, Allie? How would you adapt to this sort of situation if it ever happened?
I'm a chicken shit. So I don't know
You're gonna
what I
hide
would
inside
do.
your house, huh? You're gonna hold up inside your house.
I'm a chicken shit, so I don't know what I would do. But
Fallout shelter woman.
if it's like it's so interesting how you got to put two and two together. Like you got to be quick. So obviously just bolting everything up pretty much, as that you can't see. Like as long as you don't see outside, you're good. And honestly, it really didn't take. I think one thing that I kind of liked and appreciated about this movie is that these unseen creatures actually had enough. They kind of had enough respect not to really violate you. You know what I mean? Like they didn't take off your blindfold on you. They didn't take the blanket off on you. Like they didn't do anything like that.
They tried to convince you to open your eyes yourself.
Yeah, like exactly. Like if your eyes were closed, like if you didn't have a blindfold and your eyes were closed, they didn't violate. It was more just like take off your blindfold.
Well, that one guy that came into the house, he forced people to open their eyes after he took off.
Gary.
Yeah, Gary. He's the only one that literally forced people to look at the light.
Right. That is true. He was the only person who he was him and then the other
the other crazies.
Yeah, the other crazies. They were the only ones who would like really force you to do it to get you to see it, but it wasn't like they were the messengers or maybe they were of these unseen creatures. But me personally, I would just shake up, jack up, not do anything. And then what was interesting is you couldn't have any communication through your phone, your tablet, anything like that. They didn't really show much. Like all you saw was when they were at oh god, what was the guy's name?
Greg.
I'm sorry?
Greg was the house where they were, the house owner. Greg was the house owner.
Right. The house owner. Which I always refer to him as a psych doctor from SVU. On order. But when he's looking at the monitor, that made sense as to him seeing. Now that was creepy. That was an intense moment as well. Like that was super creepy. When the shadow and whatever could go through the monitor. But as far as like using the phone, I wouldn't see what the problem would have been there.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I believe like the phone is another way to communicate in your ear or try to transport signals to them for mind control. But that is like, what I'm like all electronics, like certain amount of electronics will cause that. But the thing is, with the screen, since he was looking right at the screen, the guy did die from seeing this creature. Or right off the bat. So you can't really see any electronic whatsoever because it all causes it to crash.
Yeah. You're right. You are right, actually. You're right. You're right.
I know what I would do in this sort of situation if this happened. I would make sure I had myself like a fallout or a bomb shelter like in place, like stocked up with supplies and food and stuff.
Yeah.
And I would make sure that the windows were covered, that there was like no way that I could see outside. And I guess I would have to learn how to get around with a blindfold or whatever, and just kind of take some of the ideas that they used and kind of build off of them, I guess.
Well, technically, you never need to go out in the world, only if you were smart enough and stock up on beans. stock up
Yeah.
on processed like military food, like the military bags of the cooked ones that you just have to add water. Like if you have your whole shed stocked up with that over a period of time, I think you could live in your shack for whatever amount of years you need to until this whole madhouse of a thing goes over. So
Oh yeah, you're talking about the military ration food.
yeah, like
Yeah,
the actual food in the bags, and like you
yeah,
just use that as a feeding for two people because
yeah,
they're huge.
yeah. That's not a bad idea. Stacy, how would you survive in this situation if it were to happen in real life?
Um, let's see. How do you even adapt to a situation like this? Well, hey, I guess Sandra Bullock. She had all the answers. She adapted, right?
Yeah.
I guess. I guess I would, in a situation like this, I would take Sandra Bullock's lead and get some blindfolds. Get some food and grab my daughters and get the hell out of here and find that safe haven. Follow the birds. Follow the birds, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd probably go first.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would do. Man, it really just it's such a tough situation when you think about it. And touching on what Ali said about the creatures are respectful in a way, and they don't touch your blindfolds or anything like that. They try to manipulate you to see on your own, but also here is another solution too. Thinking about Gary and thinking about him, my whole mind went back to like conspiracy theories or something like that. Like there's this group of people, the elites or whatever, who are immune who are immune to these creatures. Like they see them, but evidently they don't become suicidal. I want in on that group. I want in on that group. How do you see and not become suicidal? How is that possible? Please share with me.
Yeah, please disclose this information.
Right. So you can either take, Sandra Bullock's road and, get the heck out of there and just like, pray you survive, or you could take Gary's road and get in on the in crowd and see, but still go on living. You may be insane, but you're still alive.
Yeah.
For me, I would take Tessa's road.
Oh, the fallout shelter with the stocked up food
Oh,
rations.
yeah, that would be awesome. I always wanted to be in a fallout shelter.
Yeah, well, I would just say, okay, well, let's just do this. Let's if this situation were to ever happen, we'll just all just do like this big huge commune, and I'll have like Paul and I will have like the fallout shelter with like all the rations and stuff, and you guys just bring your supplies, and we'll just throw all this stuff into the shelter, and we'll
I'm down.
Up.
Sounds good.
All right, so we got a plan. Awesome. All right, so what are your guys' thoughts on how the survivors had to survive without seeing? What did you guys think about that?
It was probably horrifying for a lot of them to not be able to view it. But that's I think just the point of not the unknown and not knowing how their family is going to survive in any of it really is the whole feature. Do you really have loved ones, or is it I don't know how to put this, like how to basically say do you be more concerned about your family, or do you be concerned all about your own health and your own well-being and just surviving for the unknown future?
Yeah. Did anybody else think it was kind of interesting how when they took the car out to go for like a supply run, how like they relied on the motion cameras of the car.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought that was really good, like the GPS.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I think like there were no comic relief breaks in this movie. Like I think the only break where you could kind of relax, two scenes for me that I can think of off the top of the head, and sorry to be a dirty girl, but definitely the sex scene was a moment where like I could just breathe for a second and not be like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? Like, oh my god, someone's gonna die. Like I was
Lucy and Felix in the laundry room.
I'm sorry.
I said you mean Lucy and Felix in the laundry room scene.
No, when Tom was with Malorie. That was one scene. Yeah, that was like the one scene I could breathe. And then the second scene where I actually kind of laughed was when they put the tape on the back of the camera of the SUV.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys remembered that. So like when they were all painting up the windows of the car, they put tape over the back window. The you know how there's like some SUVs have like a camera for when you back up.
Tom took the piece of tape and put it over the cam.
Yeah, like that was actually the one moment where I laughed. But going back to the car scene, sorry to kind of like just drift off like that, but going back to the car scene and them having to figure out how to survive, I thought the GPS was super smart with all the and then the sensors as well. That really helped them. But one part that like made my stomach just like turn was whenever you would hear like a crunch or a bump, because you know you're going over a dead body.
Oh yeah.
But I actually have a question about that car scene. When the training cop and the rock dude, I don't recall his name is, when they stole the vehicle,
Felix.
Like whatever happened to them.
Lucy and Felix.
Oh, I don't recall the name, but that whole scene when they stole the car. Like, where did they actually go? Because after that, you never heard of it again.
No, that was it. Who knows?
Yeah, that's pretty much left to the imagination.
But knowing them two and how careless they were and selfish they were for doing what they did, they probably did not survive.
Yeah, probably not. Stacy, do you have anything to add about your thoughts on how the survivors had to survive without seeing?
No, actually, you all make really good points. The car scene with the GPS, I actually thought that was really smart. In times of like desperation, you need food and all that, and so that was smart in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you guys think of Sandra Bullock's role as the main protagonist in Bird Box? How about you, Stacy? What were your thoughts on Sandra Bullock's role as the main protagonist?
I thought she was really strong, but you know what? In movies like this with Sandra Bullock, she's always playing the strong, the survivalist. I know you guys seen what is it? You got Speed. You have what's the one where she's in space and everything, and she's always playing that. Yeah, and she's just always playing that survivalist role. So I feel like this role was actually meant for her, and she did really well, keeping herself and the kids alive too.
Yeah, and those kids. I mean, there was a scene. This was the second most intense moment for me, besides when we saw the drawings, was when she literally had that Sophie's Choice moment where it was like, which kid is going to be the one to have to be blind, take off the blindfold and see. And when her son offered himself, she quickly said no, because, it's her son. Like, she said no. But then when, the little girl offered herself, she hesitated. Like, she didn't respond. And, like, for a moment, like for that entire moment, like, my gut was, like, in a knot. And I was like, oh, my God, like, what? Like, I actually put myself in her shoes. And I was just like, what would you do? Like, what would you do? Like, how do you get, how can you choose between two innocent children? So that moment right there was just so intense. And she did that role so well. I think that moment right there, her facial expressions, she really captured what a decision like that in that survival mode would be like. Because she could say, everyone, hey, I got to protect me and mine's, but she didn't, what I mean? Like, and she actually did have that moment of hesitation. And I think that was so intense because that was so real. And it was just so it was just so capturing. It was very, very intense. What did you guys think of that moment?
Well, for me, when Sandra Bullock had to make a decision, like, my heart was dropping.
Yeah.
First of all, because I have not seen Sandra Bullock throughout the whole movie up to that point have any type of connection to these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I felt like her boyfriend had more of a reasonable parenting connection to them than she did herself. I didn't feel that she was gonna be ever able to have a connection since she just called them boy and girl, like,
Yeah.
like, and the doctor said at one point you're gonna have to give your child a name, but I don't know if she, even in her own wound, she had a connection to them. So there was like a lot of depressing moments going through me watching this. Like, why is like Sandra Bullock not like have that connection? Like I would be so connected to my child, I would sacrifice myself before I even give my child up to see the world. Like, that wouldn't even be a hesitation for me. But
sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, if you guys remember in the beginning of the movie when Malorie was like painting and stuff, and her sister, Jessica, came to get her for her appointment. She didn't want anything to do with it, and she didn't want the baby. Like, she didn't want to have the baby. Like, she was looking at the baby like it was like more of a burden than a blessing. And when she went to her appointment to see her doctor, like, she's like, well, if you don't want the baby, you could always give it up for adoption and stuff like that. And you could see like the gears spinning even then, she was thinking about it, and I do have to agree with you guys in the canoe scene on the river when she was saying someone's got to look, and like, who's gonna look? And I was just like, oh God, if it was me, I wouldn't make neither one of my kids look. Like, no, I would be right there with the rest of you guys. I would be protecting my kids. I would sacrifice myself before I let something happen to my kids. And I think we all feel that way.
Yeah, agreed. That moment right there really just took it. Like, I mean, took the cake for me. And I was just like, wow, I haven't seen this woman, in such a dramatic role. Like, I haven't seen Gravity yet. I'll confess that. I haven't seen it yet. I can imagine her acting in that movie was spectacular as well. Because it's also another survival movie. But that moment in the canoe for me, I mean, I was I was stressed. Like, I just was like, and like, I try to put myself in her shoes, and I was like, I just can't. And then I just kind of thought to myself, like, she might sacrifice her. Like, she might sacrifice her. This is survival. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and then there's the scene where the little girl does disobey her. You know what I mean? And then Sandra Bullock at one point says, or Malorie says, like, I can't trust you. So, you know, there was that moment where it almost seemed easy enough to maybe sacrifice her. But then, you know, then we see, like, there's that flashback where you know, she's talking to Olympia and she's saying to her, like, please promise me. And then, you know, there's that moment where she realizes, like, no, because she really did. I don't know how they wrote the script, but I feel like in the script they wrote, like, Malorie will consider girl as, you know, as the guide, or like we'll sacrifice her as being the person who can view to help with the canoe. That's kind of how I really put that, like, I really thought that in my mind. I don't know if that was extreme. I don't know what you girls think, but that's kind of, I really just thought, like, okay, in the writing room, they probably really had her think like, or act out like she might really consider sacrificing this little girl.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty intense. That was like one of the intense scenes for me with, you know, Sandra Bullock in it. But as you see, as the film goes on, and you see, like, how Malorie changes towards the kids, especially when it gets more towards the end, where they get separated. She gets separated from the children, and you've got these creatures trying to convince the children to take off their blindfolds, talking to the children as if Malorie, and you see Malorie, like, freaking out, saying, please don't take my children. And then you're like, oh, there it is. There's motherly, you know, finally, she finally just connects completely, like, right there.
I didn't know how to feel when Malorie named them boy and girl. I said, what kind of stuff is this? And I guess I kind of understood, because she's in that whole survival mode to where, okay, we're not giving any names. You know, your name's boy, your name's girl. I'm not mom. I'm just woman, and he's man. Like, I guess I kind of thought of it like that. She's in survival mode until they reach the safe haven, or until they reach safety. She's taking all the precautions that she can.
Yeah.
I just have a few things to say about the scene that I believe Allie brought up, where the girl runs off. She was actually trying to help Sandra Bullock out because she had a concern and a daughterly connection to Sandra Bullock. Even though, you know, that's not technically her daughter, the daughter never knew the actual mother. So technically, Sandra Bullock has always been the mother figure to her. But the thing is, Sandra Bullock was never technically a parent to any of the either boy or girl, because she even yelled at boy for wanting to know the story from the boyfriend about the tree.
Yeah.
She was extremely annoyed. So the whole thing with Sandra Bullock and the whole factor of the river thing, until the end of the movie, her motherly figure finally kicked in. Like, all the psychological issues that she was facing just clicked off as soon as she seen the doctor again and seen all these children running around. I don't know what caused her to not have a connection to her own children, because technically they were. But yeah, there's a, like, it's just, like, pretty odd to think that way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. She would talk about her dad, and you know what I mean. Like when there was the scene between her and oh, let me see here. I believe his name was Roger Douglas. Douglas was the guy, who like had the shotgun at the beginning of whose wife died, trying to help Sandra or trying to help Malorie. And she said, she was like, you remind me of like my father. And so, that he was kind of like a distant, cold kind of guy, pretty selfish. So she kind of dropped hit bombs on what her parents were like and why she doesn't care too much to be a parent.
I actually think that Mallory was more connected than she appeared to be. I think she really had a hard shell. I mean, just her reaction to simple things in the movie alone really showed how connected she was. She just, she just didn't. I think she didn't want to appear soft. But you mentioned, Sheila, the conversation with John about the tree, and she jumped down his throat about it, and she says, well, now you're going to let him go outside and climb trees and stuff like that. And then when, the little girl, Olivia, when she got out to go see about her, she jumped down her throat. She attacked her for, putting herself at danger. So I think she was more connected than what she,
led on
to be, because I noticed it. Just like I observed her demeanor and everything, and as crude as it was, I think she did all that because she was connected and she wanted them to survive.
Yeah, I do agree. I think at certain points she seemed more connected than others, even though she had like this like tough exterior and all she wanted to do was make sure that everybody survived. But when she jumped down Tom's throat for him telling them a story and Tom was only trying to, give the children hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just trying to give them hope, and Malorie jumped down Tom's throat for that, saying you shouldn't be giving them false hope when it's not guaranteed. But he was trying to give them something to be hopeful for, something to, look forward to, I guess. So I understand like where Tom was coming from with that, but I also understand where Malorie was coming from with that. But then again, what you should think about is their kids, their children. And I almost felt like with the situation that they had to go through, they had to grow up a lot faster, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, in order to adapt to the situation and survive.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
they did have to grow up quicker than normal children would do, because normal children wouldn't have to care about surviving a whole entire world at the age of what? I would say they were like 5 or 6 years old.
And also, like, just to also comment back on like her jumping down the kid's throat during different situations and tying in where like it is all survival mode, and children learn from what you say to them. You know what I mean? So she knew, even though she was sad about it, because you can tell she was, but she knew she had to talk to these children like very stern and give them military directions. You know what I mean? Like tell them like, this is how it is. This is what it is. This is what it is. Like even in the opening scene, when you see her talking to the kids and saying, you will die. Like, that's something that you don't say to kids. Like, you don't say that. Like, even if you see the children are playing with something maybe they shouldn't play with, or something like they're in a dangerous almost situation, you never, as a parent, or you never want to say to a kid like you can die, because that's something that brings on like a lot of fear to children. You know what I mean? But this was a situation where she actually kind of had to talk to them a certain type of way and sort of give them fear in a way to keep them sort of in a like to keep them still. Yeah, to let them survive. So that moment when, and I was actually scared because I actually thought the little girl was about to like kill herself when they were on the boat, or when like the boat landed on the side of that shore where that hospital was. Mm-hmm. And you see her put the rope over her neck. It looked like a noose for a second. I was like, oh my God, she's about to kill herself. Where did she get this rope from? But and exactly like was said, there was that daughterly, connection where she wants to go help her mom, basically. Like she wants to help her figurative mom. And then Sandra jumped down her throat. But that was just because she had to tell her, like, you have got to like listen to everything I say. So that was all like very intense, but I kind of understood where Sandra was coming from, acting that way or talking to the children that way. And then at the end, she gave them that moment. She kind of realized she could breathe. She can let the children be children and let them play and let them be themselves. And finally, she gave them that their name. I can see why she called them boy or girl, because if those spirits or those, unseen creatures knew what the kids' names were, then they would be much more easier for them to try to convince the little kids to take the blindfolds off.
Were you talking about some cutscene that they didn't show in the movie at the end?
What happened?
The cutscene. There was you guys were discussing some cutscene that you saw that was supposed to happen at the end of the movie, but they didn't really show that.
There wasn't. Oh, the end of the movie.
Yeah, the cutscene at the end of the movie that they didn't technically show, but
originally they were going to put a creature monster in the movie to reinforce, but they decided not to do it because of the fact that they thought it would be much more scarier for it to be something that the audience could see, that only the characters in the movie could see, and it would be a reflection of their what makes them afraid, their fears.
Yeah, that was a smart move.
Yeah, because the monster that they came up with we're gonna use wasn't very scary at all. I was just like looking at it like, this thing looks like, no offense, it looks like an oversized, very ugly baby.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this thing does not scare me. I mean, I feel bad for the creation, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, I'm glad they didn't use it.
Yeah, me too. Like, I was very glad that they didn't, because, I mean, like I said, like those drawings alone were just like, that's all that was needed to like let your imagination just start running wild. You know what I mean? Because if you would have seen a creature, it's like, think about this, right? They cut to let's go to like Tom's scene, right? Where Tom at the end, he unfortunately kills himself. And it's like, cut to Tom looking into the forest, cut to the forest and the wind, and there being this creature there. And then like cut back to Tom with the eyes. His eyes are turning now, and you can see in his eyes that he's seeing something that's weird. And then you cut back to the forest and maybe a close-up shot of like this creature. You look at the creature and you're going to be like, well, what the hell is this? Like, what? This is what I'm supposed to be scared of? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm glad they decided not to have a creature and to just leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah, I do think that was a good move on their part. Because I think if they put the creature that they were originally going to put in the film, I think it would have made it like so much worse. Like it would
Yeah,
have ruined it.
it would have gone to like a super pop, like the popularity of the movie would have just wouldn't have had any kind of a buzz.
They would have made more fun of it than what they already have with memes and stuff like that already.
Yeah.
Well, poor Sandra Bullock and the memes that they're doing for NFL and that movie in particular.
For which one?
Like they have her blindfolded and kicking a field goal for like one of the football teams, and they
I didn't
actually
see
have.
that.
I'm like, I technically feel bad.
But you know what? I feel like Netflix knows that whatever they come out with, like whatever they do or come out with, it's going to become real popular. Like, I think this is a movie where they made it and they thought, okay, promotion for it. What will we do as far as promotion goes? Because usually Netflix just puts out movies, but they don't do like a trailer for it. The trailer for this movie was on television, like cable TV. You know what I mean? And so they did that kind of promotion. And then I'm pretty sure they had like internet people, do memes and make it even more popular, which I think was just great promotion, honestly. Now the challenges and whatnot that came up after this, like those were ridiculous. Those were absolutely ridiculous. But there were some memes that were actually really funny. There was one where it was like, when you were a kid and your mama took you to the store and she'd say, "Don't you dare take that blindfold off." Like basically saying like, "Don't you dare ask me for something because we're only here to get what we need." Those kinds of memes were actually really funny.
Well, I could see those being funny because, like me as a kid, I always used to go to the store. Mom, can I have this? No.
Yeah.
Can I have this? No. Can I have this? Shut up and just put the blindfold back on, and we won't talk about it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like those were good. Like there were some good memes. Like there were some funny memes. But what helped promote this movie wasn't even like the commercial that was on TV. I don't know how because I don't have television, but like I was at my parents' house and like I saw it then during Christmas time. And I was like, okay. Like I saw one commercial and like they played a bit of the trailer for it. It said now playing on Netflix and blah, blah, blah. But then like it being such an internet sensation, that really took the movie and like just was a great promotion for it. Because Netflix comes out with a new movie almost at least 2 to 3 new movies almost every month. And you don't see like that much popularity for that. Like you don't see that much promotion for it.
I think the thing that actually did cause them to get a huge amount of promotion was basically getting them to hire Sandra Bullock as the main part of the character of this movie, caused them to get more of that particular notification of it.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Them having Sandra Bullock as the main character, the big notification to bring out this movie and also, make it stick out like with the commercials and the memes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was basically Sandra Bullock and she doesn't do Netflix movies. She usually just does other type of movies.
Yeah, her movies are more like Hollywood and, like she does more of those like big box office movies. So this was definitely, to me, I was very surprised. I was just like, what? Sandra Bullock in a Netflix movie? But I think it is great though.
Stacy, do you have any thoughts to add about like the people that have done like the real life Bird Box challenge type of things and like the memes?
I think they are hilarious. Actually, I think that's what even got me to watch Bird Box was all the memes. It's funny, it really is. It's entertainment, and it's just amazing to see, a film go viral like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's like no heavy promotion or advertisement or anything like that. Just, you watch the movie once and it just went viral like almost overnight. And did you see now, like, I guess corporations are starting to get on board. I read there's a restaurant that's doing a whole Bird Box theme where, you get blindfolded, and it's just a whole experience that they're making inspired by Bird Box. And I'm like, this movie is going to be a revolution. It's amazing. It really is.
We kind of mentioned it a little bit before about how Malorie was calling the children boy and girl. What did you guys think about her not naming them until the end of the movie and just calling them boy and girl throughout the film?
Well, I think we stated it, but for me, I think it was basically connection issues to them. Pretty much, I believe, for her to just call them boy and girl, if she didn't make it, at least she was able to know that the children had a way to survive. But I don't know technically if that was the actual reasoning for her calling them boy and girl, or she actually had a psychological attachment to both all the time. But that's my particular, thoughts on that.
I think she might have had maybe some detachment issues, like I was talking about earlier, when Malorie didn't really want her son in the first place. She didn't want to be pregnant, so I think part of it was kind of like detachment issues. But I also agree with what I believe Allie said, or maybe it was Stacy, about how they were in the woods, and like it's more difficult for the creatures to get the children to take off their blindfolds if they don't have a name to call them by.
Yeah.
I also did like how she did end up naming them in the end, and I also like the names that she chose for the two children.
Yeah.
I thought that was actually really, really nice, and it was kind of like a good way to honor the memory of certain people that were lost in the.
Yeah, I really think that every decision Malorie made was for the sake of survival. She really did drive a hard bargain. Then again, I feel like she was really more attached and connected than she let on, because just her whole reaction to just simple things, and she flies off the handle like that. That shows how, attached she really is. But at first I frowned upon her naming them boy and girl. I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like, these are your children. You give them. But then, I understood the whole concept and situations. Like, you have to survive. And if these creatures don't know your name, like, actually, boy and girl, they started off really good, because they, society or whatever don't really know them. They were born in this house, so they're not registered at any hospital or anything like that. So there's no information on them. There's no information to use against them, to manipulate them or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I thought of that as well. So I thought the whole boy and girl, okay, I'm like, okay, I understand that. That's like a smart card to play. Then when she finally gave them their names, at the end, I was like, oh, that's so sad. That actually was an emotional part for me. Like, they finally got named. She finally, she can let loose and everything. And I cried at that part.
Oh.
Yeah, I cried.
Oh, yeah, at that part, when she said their names, I felt like relief, because that was the moment where okay, they survived. They're in a safe place. Everyone can breathe. You know what I mean? So I really like that. It was definitely like, it was like a waiting to exhale kind of thing. Like, like, okay, they survived it. She gave them names. And you can tell, like, she had their names registered. Like, she knew what she was going to name the children. But she just needed the right moment to tell them. And for her to finally be able to say, these are my children. That's like when you, Stacy, when you said like you cry, like I got a little emotional too. Like I understood when she said, these are my children, because she couldn't do too much. Yeah. She couldn't say too much because she didn't want these things to be able to find a way to manipulate them. And these kids were very smart, because when it was said, you can take the blindfold off, they both of them were like, are you sure? Because like, I loved that. I love that they didn't just immediately take it off. It was like, they questioned, like, are you sure? Because she came down my throat a couple times. Yeah. I said, I like that. That was definitely, I think that was probably like the most, as far as like emotional, like
definitely.
That was definitely a very high emotion.
Yeah, definitely. And also I think another emotional part for me was when Tom died, because it's like, he fought to, save them and get them to safety, that he risked his own life. So that was an emotional part for me as well.
Yeah, and when what was super emotional for me when Tom died, he had such a good heart from the beginning. Like from the beginning, he had such a good heart. And then not only that, like he like Malorie finally learned how to love someone because of Tom. Like she finally learned how to, like, because you can tell, like, she wasn't a very affectionate person. She was very like locked up. Her sister Jessica made this kind of like this generic comment, like, obviously the baby dad was like a roommate, but like obviously wasn't. Or Sandra kind of said, like, or Malorie said, like, no, he wasn't. But then Jessica was kind of like, yeah, he was. Like, he was just your roommate, obviously, and he moved out. So Sandra really didn't. She took a chance on someone she liked, but as far as loving someone, like, that was the person that she loved. And I thought, like, I was so sad. I was sad for her. Like, I knew he was gonna die, because you know it. You can already tell, but like, because you go through this emotional journey with them, you're like, oh my God, no. Don't die. For Malorie's sake, don't die.
Actually, that whole part where Tom died, that is the first time you see Sandra Bullock and Malorie literally going to emotionally cry. Mm-hmm. Like, she wore his necklace after that and never took it off. Like, that necklace was her opening glare or opening light. And it was just amazing. Like, holy shit, she does have feelings. Because she was so closed off, even at the time where the whole factor took place. So I'm not like, I don't like, she, like, it seems to me that she was a child growing up in a world where she did not really give a rat about like life. Like, if she lived another day, she wouldn't really have cared.
Yeah. And another thing too, like, just to kind of comment on that scene where she cries, like, I felt there's so many things that, like, you feel, but like, I could already picture how she was crying. Like, it's almost like, like when you were a kid, almost like, I can relate this to, like, when you're a kid and you're so frustrated that you cry, but you gotta cry quietly, and then you're like, maybe this is a little too in depth, but like, you know, like the ends of your hands and like your arms, like you feel that like intense tingling. Like I know that's the cry she had when she realized that, like when she knew that Tom was dead. Like it was that like intense, extreme, like body all over, like just crying. Because when you cry like that, like in silence, like that, it's way more intense than like when you're crying out loud. And then crying for something so deep and emotional. I was just like, oh my God. Like it turned to my head, like my husband and I were watching it and I was just like, this reminds me of like when I would cry that I was upset because I didn't get something, or, you know, like I got in trouble or something, or I didn't get something. Like I'm in my room and like I gotta be real quiet. But like it's so intense that your whole body feels like it's crying. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense, but like I felt that when she was crying. I was like, oh my God, that was so intense.
Yeah, that does make sense, and I have to agree with you guys on all the parts that you mentioned. I thought those were pretty emotional myself. Those were the ones where I was just kind of like, oh no, and I'm like, damn, because like when Tom sacrificed himself for Malorie and the kids to get away, and you could just see like that the force was taking him over, but he still like he pushed through it just to take care of that one last loose end that was going after his family, and then he took his life. It was like, wow, that was a pretty heavy part for me. And the part where the kids almost get taken in the woods, and the part in the canoe where I had to like say who's gonna look. I was just like, don't make either of them look. But pretty much, I'm in agreement with everybody that's spoken already. Anybody else have anything to add on topic?
No.
No.
Okay, so what were your guys' thoughts on the birds being a warning system to detect the danger of the unseen force?
Unfortunately for me, I think all animals, if it was a bird or a different animal, they know the surrounding and dangers. So, like to follow the bird's instinct was like amazing concept to go about, blindfolded and all, because she like took the birds with her as a warning symbol if there was any danger around her to get in and out. So that whole concept to me was really, really amazing that they actually use ordinary birds that sit in a cage, don't know nature from a hole in the wall, and able to just go poof. There's danger. Get out. Or don't let that person in.
I think animals in general, as Sheila was saying, are they are they're what am I trying to say? They hit onto dangers really well. They're very keen in that. So I honestly I think any animal probably would have saved the day, if you will. I mean, it happened to be birds, but yeah, I feel like just any animal would have sufficed in this scenario.
Yeah, I like the point that Sheila brought up where these animals, like, you know, these birds, they have really been not only just in a cage, but like in a very, very, very close surrounding, probably since for a very long time. Like they were in that store, you know what I mean? And like, and then they go into the house, like, and then all they know is just like, it, you know, being enclosed, and then them being able to detect, you know, and they were on cue, like to the fact that Douglas, who was such a like stern man, like when he heard the birds chirping, when Gary came in the house, like he knew, he was like, oh no, we need to trust these birds. But the guy knew how to kind of play his role, and he knew how to kind of dim himself. Like you could tell, like he dumbed his self down so that the birds could calm down. Like he knew how to manipulate the situation. You know what I mean? So I really like that point that Sheila brought up. And like you said, Stacy, any animal could really detect that kind of presence or like that energy, and would know when something is wrong. So I really like the birds being this. And I was so happy when they survived off of they survived the river, the rafting, right? And the bird, like the little girl had the bird box. I was like, oh my God, thank God the bird survived. And those are some tough birds because they didn't drown or anything.
That's right. They fell in the river too, right? When the boat overturned.
Yeah, they were capsized.
Yeah, they were in the river. I mean, and they have way smaller lungs than we do.
Those are some pretty resilient birds.
Yeah.
So, who was your guys' least likable character in the film, and why?
Well, I would say the guy with the shotgun, because he only gave a shit about himself. I don't really think he cared mostly about his wife as well, as much as he stated he did. But that was the unlikely character that I did not like, was the guy that they solidated him inside the garage at one point. I don't recall his name, and he was like a big, huge alcoholic.
I have to say, like, I hate Gary. That's it. Like, I truly hate him. I detested him. Because I hated him so much. He is who I hated. I didn't care for Douglas. Like, Douglas was just a total he was a
douche.
He was a douche. That's what I wanted to say. He was an asshole. He was a douchebag, and he was an asshole. But like, I can say this though: if Douglas wouldn't have died, at least as quickly as he did, he probably would have been someone who would have survived a long time. Because he was very like, even though he was an asshole, he kind of was like that "I told you so" kind of guy. Like,
and that's why I kind of hated him in the long run.
Yeah, like you want to hate. Like, for me personally, like I wanted to hate him because I was like, God, this guy is like, I hate this guy. Like, he is so selfish. Like, you know what I mean? But then I was like, all right, well, his wife just died trying to, help Sandra, or trying to help Malorie. So that's one. Two, like, he obviously was suing his neighbors because their neighbors wanted to do some kind of glass thing, and he did not care to see the inside of their life. And he was just, and then he kind of did that, like, make the world great again comment. So I was just like, oh, okay, I see where we're going here with this. And who this guy is. But he was actually a person who I had respect for him. Like, I didn't like him, but I kind of respected him because he knew what he was talking about. Like, he knew it, and the audience knew it. Just the cast didn't know it. When it came to Gary, and Gary not being the kind of guy, you want in the house. And he was right. He really was right. You had to give that to him.
Well, that's because the kindness of the lady that actually had Girl originally, she was very, how do I put this?
Gullible.
Gullible is the actual right word to say, because she was very gullible to everybody because she never had to survive in anything. Her husband took care of all of her needs.
Yeah, her parents. She said it. She said she was spoiled, and I liked her definition of spoiled. Or it's not that I liked it. It was just it was a different type of spoiled, because you don't hear that. Like, you don't hear a person say, "I'm spoiled because I've been overly loved." You usually hear people say, "I was spoiled because I got anything I wanted."
True.
So that was kind of refreshing in a way. Like, it was just so different for her to say that. And then you just knew that she was just a very kind-hearted person. Even though she was spoiled and really didn't have to survive on her own, she was
I think that also in Girl her mother's instinct, like the lovability of another person.
Yeah.
That's why she also always tried to help Sandra Bullock. But in another way, it felt like, I'm like, okay, is it really going to end up well, or is this going to end up so wrong?
Yeah.
I think my least favorite character, and it's funny that you two, I have a love-hate relationship with Douglas as well. He was a cunt. He was such a cunt. But at the same time, he was that way to survive. And as selfish as he was, he included everyone else in that too. Because, like, okay, look, I'm held up in here with all you sons of bitches, okay? I want to survive. I don't know about you, but I want to survive. So if you want to survive, you do what I say. I got that whole, like, demeanor about him. You know, do what I say and maybe you'll make it out alive. You know? But, let's see. But my least favorite character is Gary. Gary was the cunt of cunts. Like, he tried to make the baby see. You know, it's like, are you serious? What kind of person are you?
Oh yeah, I hated that person. I hated him.
Oh, he tried to make the babies see. The babies. I'm like, dude, go away. He trapped the bird in the refrigerator. Like, no. What kind of person?
It was the wine thing, right?
Yeah, I'm like, that's abuse towards animals and kids.
Now, I will say this: he was, obviously crazy, but like, if he would have been like a psychopath, he would have killed the birds. Like, I thought he was gonna wring their necks.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, he's gonna wring their necks. Like, that's what's gonna happen right now. And he didn't.
I did actually feel that way at a certain point. But I seriously thought he was literally gonna tie everybody together, drag them out in the fucking sun, and make them stare at it while he laughs at them. Like, that psychotic demeanor all come out at once to everybody. Even though he did it one by one, I thought he was literally gonna just tie everybody in, like, a roundhouse of, like, knots and just fucking drag them out.
Yeah.
So I guess it's safe to say we are all in agreement that Douglas and Gary are the assholes of this film.
Yes, absolutely.
But I have to give a pass to Douglas, because he wasn't as bad as Gary. Gary was the worst.
Yeah, Gary was the worst, but Douglas was pretty up there too on the asshole.
Douglas.
And I'm sorry for saying this, but if it wasn't for Olympia, Gary would not have gotten in that house. So, cheers.
That's one of those moments where it's like, you can't be so gullible in life.
Yeah. Oh, she was too darn gullible. It's like, girl, what is wrong with you?
I'm like, I had a bad feeling. I'm like, no. I'm like, don't let him in. I'm like, why is she opening the door for? I'm like, You have all the support you need. Just run.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, she was a cunt for letting Gary in. But I'm like, but she had such a good heart. I'm like, I want to hate you so bad, but you got such a good heart. Screw you for letting that psychopath in.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I was definitely over her. But she was a sweetheart.
Yeah, but I feel bad, and I did feel bad.
Yeah. Ugh, when her and then the older lady, like they died, I was like, oh my God, no.
That older lady was such a sweet woman. I'm like, oh, I just wanted to cry.
And she was a tough little cookie. She was the one
Yeah.
who knocked out, which at that point I was like, oh damn, she shouldn't have knocked them out. But she knocked out Douglas, which in a way it was like, all right, thank God, shut up.
Now, if Tom were to have survived, how do you think he would have reacted to seeing the safe haven at the end if they all made it, like Tom, Malorie, and the kids?
I think he would. I think Tom would have asked Malorie to marry him and to be a family.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. But he was so in love with her and those kids.
He was such a good person. Like when he told this story of like escorting the father every day, I was just like, oh my God, like he has such a good heart. You know what I mean? Because like I don't remember what the line was before that. It was something like the end, like surviving the end of the world, or like this is the end of the world, or whatever was said by Sandra Bullock. And then he said like, no, like, I used in the middle of all this chaos during the war in Iraq, like I would escort this father and his 4 kids, and they would take them to school, like to take them to school. And like that moment, I was just like, Tom is like an amazing person. Like he's a good guy. And if he would have survived and he would have been able to like he would have been able to go to, the school for the blind, like it would have been just it would have been such a nice add to the movie. Like he didn't have to die. He really didn't have to.
I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Tom was going to make it, but I kind of, like you guys said, we all kind of saw it coming. It's like a love affair, and then you knew it was just going to come to like a tragic end somehow, and he was going to end up being like a sacrificial lamb, for lack of better wording.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so last thing I want to ask you guys is your final thoughts on Bird Box.
I would definitely recommend people watching it. I do feel there's a lot of psychological terms that we didn't get to that could explain the whole Molly situation, as well as others around. But for me, in general, it was a really good movie on my end. Even though there was not that much of the horror factor brought onto it, besides the unknown and when it was going to attack, I still feel it was an extremely good movie, and the storyline was amazing for me.
I agree. I would definitely recommend this movie. I waited until this podcast, until we recorded this. Like I knew I wanted to watch it and just have like, like that, like straight off, like emotional perspective of it. And I would definitely recommend it. I know that the movie has already been out for like, a month and a half. But it's just it's worth watching. It's worth watching a second time. Like, I feel like this is a movie I'd probably, you know how there's a couple movies you watch a couple times and like, even though you watch it a couple times, it never bothers you. This is probably one of those, because it's just it's intense. There's a lot. Like, as you said, Sheila, there's a lot of psychological aspects to this movie that we didn't have yet a chance to tap as much into. But there's a lot to think about. And I think that's, you know, when you're done watching this movie, there's a lot that you can think about afterwards, and a lot of conclusions and a lot of theories. And this is just definitely a good conversational piece. So I loved Bird Box. I really did. Good job, Netflix.
I loved it. I did. Very good concept. Great writing, great acting, great cast. Yeah, Netflix has been on a roll, and this is a good one.
Agreed.
So, would you ladies say that it's safe to come to an agreement that this film is fitting for the month of February for the Women in Horror Month?
Oh, totally. Definitely.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock she's definitely, a big influence.
Yeah, which I forgot to mention in the beginning that this is one of our discussions for the Women in Horror Month is Bird Box. So we're trying to come up with a couple other ideas, maybe do a couple different other Women in Horror all-female episodes this month. You guys,
I'm definitely down for it.
yeah. So is there anything else anybody wants to add, or do you think we've covered everything, guys?
I think we've covered.
I think we pretty much covered everything.
Well, with that being said, I think we're good. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight to do this episode. And you guys are awesome. And
thank you. You too.
It's great to be getting the female podcast episodes back up and running. Kind of hard to do by yourself, but I'm glad I've got a great team of women to help me with it this time around. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Anytime.
So, how about you ladies say where you're from, and if there's a way that people wanted to like reach you guys, like through DK Mag or whatever. How about I start with Stacy?
Stacy Cox, staff correspondent for DK Mag. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Google Plus. I believe, Ali, do you know any more?
No, you have covered it all. So Stacy and I are both from DK Mag. And yep, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, website as well. The website would be DK Mag, not magazine, mag. So just dkmag.com.
And that's DECAYMAG, not the letters DK.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you, Stacey. I didn't even think of that.
We gotta send a salute to Kim.
You're right. But yeah, guys, so that's where you can find Stacy and myself. And then my personal social media is Ali Moments. So ALI and Moments, MOMENTS.
How about you, Sheila? Where can anybody find you?
You can find me on Twitch under Sheila C. Pure Gamer. Also, you will find me on Twitter as Skitterman0516. That's basically where you could message me, make comments, follow me, know what I'm doing in the near future. I possibly might have my YouTube page back up and running. Not sure yet, but that's about it.
Yeah, and Sheila is also a part of the Everything Horror podcast, along with myself, obviously. And she's a valuable asset to the team, and we're very grateful to have her. She does our game commentary for us,
which I haven't done in a while, which I gotta get back to sooner or later.
It is perfectly understandable, and it is okay. As for Everything Horror Podcast, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, Podbean platform, Amazon Alexa. Trying to think where else. Paul and I also have personal Instagram and Facebook accounts as well. You can also find our website at ehpodcast.com. That is ehpodcast.com. And I was your hostess this evening, Tessa Baker, and thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, stay scary.